Begin today the Gemara on the top of Daf Chav Beis Amud Aleph, the second line from the top of the page. The Gemara continues from the last point that it mentioned here. Right before this, the Mishnah said, the Rasha Adam, person that's wicked, even though outwardly he may look like a tzaddik, but really he's a conniving Rasha. And the example, one of the examples here was a person that seems like he's sitting and learning, but he only is Kara Vishana. He learns Mikra, Mishnah, but he doesn't he doesn't learn Gemara, he doesn't really know the reasons and understanding behind what he's learning, so his learning is really not proper. That's a Rasha Adam. So in connection to this, the Gemara brings Itma, we learned Kara, Vishana, V'loi Shimish Talmidei Chachamim. Person that learns Mikra and Mishnah, Psukim and Mishnayis, but Leishimish Talmidei Chachamim doesn't learn the Gemara to understand the reasons behind the halachis. Rabbi Lazar says, he has the status of an Amaretz. So when the Gemara says he's an Amaretz, Rashi says, it's not just a derogatory term about who he is, but it's actually relevant to halacha, that we don't trust him regarding giving the proper maestris, and also regarding certain halachas of taharis, that an Amaretz has a halacha of what he touches is tamei, will apply to this individual, even though he's learning Torah. But he's not learning the taimei halachas, so he doesn't know properly halacha, so we can't trust him in these two areas. Rav Shmuel ben Achmeni Yomar, Harei zeh bur. This is even worse than an Amaretz. He's on the level of a bur. Rashi says worse than an Amaretz. Rashi doesn't spell out in what way and what's the relevance of this. Rabbi Yanai says, Harei zeh kuti. This person is like a kuti. What's a kuti? Kuti were people that did not follow what the Chachamim said. They read what it says in the Torah, but they did not follow what the Chachamim said. So over here, this person as well, because he doesn't listen to the Chachamim, learning the reasons that Chachamim explain in the Gemara for the halachas, so he doesn't understand them, so he doesn't follow what the Chachamim say. So Rashi says the relevance of this is that you're not allowed to eat from his bread, from his wine, not allowed to share with him from his food, because he doesn't listen to what the Chachamim say. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, Rav Acha bar Yaakov says about this individual, Areze Mogesh. This person is a Mogesh. A Mogesh, Rashi says, means a Machashev, a person that's involved with sorcery. Why? Because this individual that we're speaking about over here is learning Torah, all with the appearance to show that he knows how to learn Torah. But the fact that he's not taking the time to understand deeper and to see the reasons, so he's only doing it because he wants to appear like he's learning. But really in his heart, he's not interested in the Torah. So Rashi says he's goynev v'salavavais. So he's deceiving people, like a person that's involved in kishuv that deceives. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Mistavre, Karavacha bar Yaakov. It's mistaver, it's logical that we go so far to say that this person is like a machashev, like Rav Acha bar Yaakov said. The Amri Inshi, because people say about a person that is a machashev, rotten megusha, v'lo yoda mayama, that a megusha, a machashev, when they do their kishuv, they say these words, and you don't understand what the words means. He says these words, and even though he doesn't know what the words mean, but that's how they bring down their kishuv. So similar to this person, Tani Tana, he's learning what the Tana says, he's learning the halachas, but v'lo yoda mayama, doesn't understand what he's saying. This is kosher, this is not, but he has no clue, doesn't get really the halachas that he's learning, and therefore he makes mistakes. He compares one thing to the other, not proper. So similar to this machashev that says words when he brings down his kishuv, and the words itself, we don't understand what he's saying. Tana Rabbanon, now in a brayso we learned regarding this that we spoke about before. An Amaretz. And again, the Amaretz is not stam a derogatory term, but actually to define him as an Amaretz regarding the halachas of Maisris and Taris. Taisus over actually brings down that sometimes when the Gemara says a person is an Amaretz, the relevance of that would be that he's even possible for Eidos. But not here in our Gemara. Here we're not talking about that. So who is the Amaretz? Kol she'ena kaira kriyashma, shachris va'arvis bebirchiseh. One that reads, he says Kriya Shema in the morning, but he doesn't say it with the brachas of Kriya Shema. If he doesn't say it with the brachas, so he definitely doesn't know anything, and we can't trust him for Maisris and for Tara. Divrei Rab Meir. The Chachamim say, Kol she'ena maniach tefillin. A person that doesn't put on tefillin. So it says in the Torah the mitzvah of tefillin, but he doesn't put on tefillin, so he says Kshartim lois, and he's saying a lie, because he doesn't put it on, so we can't trust him. One that doesn't put on tzitzis is an Amaretz. Person that has children, and he doesn't raise them, he doesn't educate them to learn Torah. Acherim say, another pshat, going back to the point we said before, a person that learns Chumash, learns Mishnayis, v'lo shimish talmidei chachamim, but he does not learn with the Chachamim to understand the reasons that the Gemara brings, Zehu Amoretz. That's an Amoretz. Kara v'lo shana harei zeh bur. He learns just Chumash, and he doesn't even learn Mishnayos, so that's even lower than an Amoretz. He's a bur. Loi kara v'lo shana. He does not learn at all, not even Chumash, not even Mishnayos. All of Akasav Vaymer regarding him, the pasuk says, "V'zarati es beis Yisrael, I plant amongst the Yidden as beis Yehuda zera Adam v'zera behema." So here we see that even regarding Yidden, they could be referred to as zera behema, that he has no knowledge of Torah at all, and therefore he's compared to a behema mamish.
What's he talking?
Pasuk continues here. Now the Gemara brings in connection to this a person that learns and he does not learn also the Gemara, the reasons. So there's a pasuk that says, "Yirei es Hashem bini." It's a Shlomo Melech speaking to his son. So he says to his son, "My son, you should be God-fearing. Umelech, you'll be a king. V'im shainim al tesarev." With the shainim, do not mix. Do not have a relationship with the shainim. Now, who are these shainim? Amar Rav Yitzchak, Elo shashainim halachis. This refers to the people that learn halachis, but only mishnayos, but without the reasons. The ones that we just described, those that don't know the reasons, and therefore they make mistakes all the time. So don't mix with them. Don't take the understanding of Torah from them. So says the Gemara, Pshita, isn't this Pshat in the Pasuk obvious? There's no other way to explain the term of Im Shainim al Tesarev. So the Gemara says, not necessarily. Ma'o de Taime, I would think when it says Vim Shainim al Tesarev, it means something else. Shainin bechet. Those people that sin and they repeat and they sin again. That's maybe who it refers to. Uked Rav Huna, and as the statement that Rav Huna said, the Omer Rav Huna said, Kivin sha'avar adam avere v'shanaba, when a person sins and he repeats it again, chotraloi. What happens is that now it becomes permissible. So the Gemara explains, what does it mean, chotraloi? Because a person does it once and again, so then it becomes permissible in his eyes. It seems to him to be like something that's not a big deal. Maybe that's what the pasuk of Im Shainim al Tesarev means. Don't mix with people that sin and sin again. Kamash Malan, that's why he's teaching you that no, he was telling his son, don't mix with people that learn but don't know the reasons for the halachas. Tana, we learned in another place that Tanoim, Mevala Yelam, those that are Tanoim, meaning they only learn the halachas of the Mishnah without the Gemara, Mevala Yelam, they destroy the world like a Mabel. So the Gemara asks, Mavali Elam Solka Daitach, it's so terrible, mamish like Mavali Elam, like a Mabel. Ravina says, Shamayrin halacha mitoich mishnasan. If they're learning, and then they paskin the halachas from what they learn in the Mishnah without understanding the reasons of the halachas, so they can cause a destruction of the world. They start comparing one thing to another. That's one problem. And Rashi says another problem is that sometimes a Mishnah could be going according to a single Tana, and we don't paskin like that Mishnah, and the Gemara will clarify, oh, you know who this Mishnah is, it's only going according to this Tana, but then there's another Mishnah or another Braisa which brings another opinion. So if you only learn the Mishnah, possibly we don't even paskin like that Mishnah. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned this in a Braisa as well. Amr Rabbi Yeshua, V'chim, V'vali, Eilamein. Are they people that destroy the world like a Mabel? They're settling the world by learning Torah. Shenema Halichas Eilam Loi. Halichas Eilam Loi means a person that learns halachas. Ella, the answer is Shamayrin halacha miteich mishnasan. The learning of Mishnayos itself is good, but if they're paskening the halachas based on what they learn from Mishnayos, that brings the destruction to the world. This is one of the things that's quoted in the Alter Rebbe and Shulchan Aruch. Difference between the Shulchan Aruch, the way the Mechaber wrote his Shulchan Aruch, he wrote the Shulchan Aruch with halachas without any reasons. The Alter Rebbe, when he was Mechaber's Shulchan Aruch, wrote everything halachas b'tameyan. Everything has to be dafka with the reasons, in order that the person that learns it should understand what's the reasons behind it, so that he could pass him properly with the reasons. So it's based partially on this Gemara here. Okay, going back to the Mishnah gave an example of a Isha Prusha, a woman that seems to be a tzadekes, she's a Prusha, she separates from others, but nevertheless the truth is that this woman is also from the Mavale Yelam, from the ones that destroy the world. Right? So the Mishnah's example was Isha Prusha, Makas Prusha, and so on, Mavala Yelam. So the Gemara brings a Braisa that explains this. Who's this Isha here? So Tan Rabbana, we learned in the Braisa, Besula Tzlainis. This girl that's davening, it seems like she's davening a lot. Valmona Shevavis. And an almana that is very friendly, and she visits all her neighbors, and she seems like that she goes, and she helps everyone. And the Katan Shlekol Lechadashav. A Katan Shlekol Lechadashav, okay, we'll see soon in the Gemara what this refers to. So these destroy the world. Because really, what they're doing is just outwardly they're presenting themselves as being righteous, but really they're looking out to do averis, and they're looking for inappropriate behavior. So the Gemara asks him this: Eini, is this true? What Rabbi Yochanan said that lamadnu yireschet mi besula. We learn how to be God-fearing from a besula, from a girl, the way she davens, and the kibbutz schar ma'almana. And we learn also how to look for getting more reward for mitzvahs from an almana. What was he referring to? Yireschet mi besula. We learn how to be God-fearing from this girl that Rabbi Yochanan shama lahi besula. The nafla apa. He heard this girl that was davening, and she fell on her face, and vakamra, and she said as follows when she was davening: Rabbeinu Shalayla, Master of the universe, Barasa Gan Eden, Ubarasa Gehenim. You created Gan Eden and Gehenim. Barasa Tzadikim, Ubarasa Risham. You create Tzadikim and you create Risham. Yihiratzim ufanach. May it be the will in front of you. Shalei Kashlu bi b'nei Adam, that people should not stumble in me. That I should not cause that people should look at me, and because of this they do Avedis, and therefore I will be Zeicha only to Gan Eden. That's what she was davening. So this is the tefillah. We can learn from her the way she davened of her tzidkis. So we see here that Adarabah, we learn from the Besula, from her davening, how great it is. That's the story with the Besula. Now we also learn kibbutz schar ma'almana. We learn how to gain and to get extra schar when you do a mitzvah from an almana. There was this almana that had a shul in her own neighborhood. But every day, nevertheless, she went a longer distance to come to the shul of Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan said to her, Biti, my daughter, isn't there a shul in your own neighborhood? Why are you going this far? She responded to him and said, Rebbe, my teacher, do I not have extra reward for the steps that I walk and come to your shul? Okay, so we see over here that this almana, that she goes out and she comes a far distance to go to the shul, and she has a special schar for this. So before we were saying that there's this almana that also goes out and she goes amongst the neighbors and she goes out, and really it's something negative. And the basula as well is also, she's davening, but it's really something negative. But over here we're seeing that he's describing that these are both positive. So the Gemara answers, Ki Omar, when it said in our Mishnah that this almana, she goes and she visits her neighbors and she goes out of her house, and it's really all for the negative. It's like this story that happened with Yechini Bas Retivi. Like Gemara doesn't say the story. Rashi brings that this Yechini Bas Retivi, she was an almana and she was a mechashefa. She was involved in sorcery. And what she would do is, when a woman was about to give birth, so with her kishif, she would hold up the birth, and then she would come and show like interest, that she's so concerned, and she would say, should I daven for you? Should I help you out? And then she would go and she would be mevatel the kishif, and the baby the baby would be born. And it seemed like she was so helpful and such a big tzadekis, but really it was all just kishif. And one time they uncovered her kishif. They saw what she was doing. She had a kishif there, and she allowed the kishif to go out, and the baby was born. So she was exposed. This is this Yechini Basra TV. But otherwise, an almana that goes out of her house and she's going amongst the neighbors and she's walking a distance and she's meeting people and she goes to shul far, that's only positive. The Gemara here does not answer regarding the contradiction that it seems like the Gemara brings up regarding the Basula as well. That is it positive when we say that a Basula, this girl, is davening or not? So the Marsha says that when it talks about the Basula, the Gemara doesn't bother answering that because it depends. An almana, a Basula, which is davening in a normal degree, she's davening 3 times a day or whatever, davening this tefillah that it mentions there, that's positive. But a Basula, which is davening extra and in a way dafka is showing in people's faces how she's davening, that's obviously just to appear as a tzadekis, and it's not serious. There's a remez in the Gemara. The Rebbe once teaches in the Sikha, the Rebbe speaks about this Indian regarding this name, Yochini Bas Retivi, that there's a meaning to this name. That Dafka, this Mechashefa, got this name because Yochini, the Gemara says, a person that sees Yochanan in his dream, Nisei Nisim Nasalai. She tried to appear as an individual that could create Nisim. But really she was Bas Retivi, meaning that she had this kishiv, and the way she was exposed was through, or the way she would get rid of her kishiv was with Retivi, with water. The water would be mevatel this kishiv. So therefore Retivi, which means moisture. So that's how she it looked like she was Yechini, but really she was Bas Retivi, really dealing with kishiv. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to the third thing that was mentioned before in the Braise, that a cotton shalei kol lechadashav. My cotton shalei kol lechadashav. What does this mean? This cotton that hasn't yet come in his months, he's not yet old enough, and he's also from the ones that destroy the world. What does that mean? So hacha tagimu over here, they translated that this, what the reference over here is, zet talmidei chachamim, talmid chacham that is hamavayit berabaisav. This is a talmid chacham that's still young, and he has to be learning from a teacher, but nevertheless, he's not listening, he's not accepting from what his teachers are teaching him. And the Braisa refers to him like kol chadashav, as Rashi says, because this is a person that will die young, because he's not listening to his teachers. Rabbi says a different shot. Zet talmid chacham, zet talmid rather, shalehigia lohira umayda. This is a student that hasn't yet reached the age or the level that he's able to paskin halachas and to be a rav, and nevertheless he's paskining. He's teaching, he's paskening people how he's even though he's not yet at that age. So that's also a terrible thing when he's not yet at that level and he's already paskening. What's the meaning of the pasuk when it says kirabim chalolim hipila? That many dead have fallen. And many are all those that were killed here. What's this pasuk referring to? So this is just a mashal. Kirab chalolim hipila zet talmid chacham shlegia leira. This is a talmid chacham that has not yet reached a level to teaching Torah umayda, and he's still teaching. And Rashi says that's the meaning of the word hipila. That's a lashon of nefil, that he actually becomes like a nefil because he doesn't live out his years or even his months. Vatsumim kol harugah, and many are all those that are killed. Zet talmid chacham shehigia leira. This refers to a person that has reached the level that he could paskan halachas for people, and he doesn't do so. He doesn't teach people the halachas they're waiting for him to teach. And Ashi Taishas, that's the meaning atzumim. Atzumim also means aitzim. He just closes his eyes. He ignores people that need his help to teach them the halachas. Avad kama, up until which age should a person be waiting to become a rav, to teach halachas? Ad arba'im shnin, to the age of 40. He has to be at least 40 years old. Fragt the Gemara, Eini, is this true? That the person cannot become a Rav and teach halachas until he's 40 years old? But Rabbe did teach when he was younger, or some greatest here, he taught and he was a Rav even when he was younger. And says the Gemara, Beshavin, if even when he's younger, but his greatness in Torah is equal to the greatest Rav of the city, so he's on the same level, or he's even greater, he's the only one that could teach halachas, then even at a younger age he's able to teach. But otherwise, you can't. Otherwise, you have to wait until he's the age of 40. Makas Purushin v'chulu, the Mishnah mentioned also Makas Purushin, those that are hitting themselves, and they're trying to appear as people that are porush, that are separated from the worldly matters, but really they're not tzaddikim at all. So here the Gemara brings a braisa in connection to this, describes what these prushin are. So Tan Rabbanu we learned in the braisa Shiva prushin hein. There are actually 7 different people that seemingly they present themselves as prushin, that they're separated and they're tzaddikim, but they're really not. And here the Gemara, the Mishnah will give the names for all of these, and then the Gemara will explain them. Parush Shichmi, Parush Nikvi, Parush Kizoi, Parush Miduchye, Parush Machayvasi, Ve'esena, Parush Me'ave, and Parush Me'yire. Those are the 7 people that are Parush, but they're really not tzaddikim at all. Parush Shichmi, what is this? This is a person that acts like the people of Shechem. What's the story with the people of Shechem? So Rashi brings in Shechem, they all made a bris milah. But what were they doing it for? Because they really were interested in the mitzvah? They weren't doing it l'shem shemayim. They were doing it for their own anah. They were promised that if we're going to do this mitzvah, then we'll be able to have business dealings and we'll have all the benefits from Yaakov and his family. That's a person that does everything and he's really doing it all for his own benefit, like Shechem. Parish nikfi za mankif raglov, a person that's walking and dragging his feet and he bangs his feet and he's like walking with this seeming humility and he's trying to present himself as humble, but really he's not. Parush kizoi means Amar Rav Nachman v'Yitzchak zeh makis dom liksalim. Person that walks and he looks down or he closes his eyes and he appears as a person that doesn't want to look at women and he wants to be very modest and he bumps into walls to the point that blood comes out of him and really is just to appear as modest when he's not. Parish miduchye, Omar Rabbe Barshile, the mashpa ki miduchye. Then he goes with his head bent down like a meduchye. Meduchye is a pestle, which has like this shape, like bent down. So also he walks bent down, appearing as humble, even though he's not. Omar Rabbe Barshile, sorry, went up a line. Proish, the next one it said here. Proish machay vasi vesena, person that says, tell me, what's my obligation? And I'll do it. So the Gemara asks, what's wrong with this? Ha mal you see. This is very good. He's asking, he wants to learn, he wants to know what he has to do, and he's ready to do it. So the Gemara answers, Ella the Omar, rather what it really means is, what this person says is, machay vasi su vesena. What more can I do? Tell me what else I could do that I have not done yet. In other words, he's trying to present himself as someone that's doing everything right. He knows everything already. Then it says, Parish ma'ave, Parish ma'yire, a person that only is separated. In other words, he does mitzvahs only out of love or out of fear. Now, what does this mean? Why would this be negative? So Rashi explains, Parish ma'ave means that he's only doing mitzvahs because he loves the schar of the mitzvahs, not the mitzvahs themselves. He's doing it just for the reward. Or Parish ma'yire means a person that's not doing an aveda because of the yira of a einish, just because of the punishment. But again, he's not doing it because the Eibusha commanded. A person should be doing a mitzvah l'shma, because it's the Eibusha's mitzvah. The schar that comes later, that comes, but that's not the reason why I should be doing the mitzvah. So that's simply what the Bryce here is saying. That's why Parish ma'ava, Parish ma'yire is not positive. But on this, Amru le'abaye v'rave l'tana le'tisni Parish ma'ava, Parish ma'yire. Do not include in the same category as the rest that the Bryce says here, those that are Parish ma'ava, Parish ma'yire. He's doing it for the schar, or he's not doing an aveda because of the punishment. Because the Amr Rav Yudah Rav Lo'olam Yasek Adam b'Torah b'mitzvahs Afil Shalei Lishma. The person should always fulfill Torah mitzvahs, even if it's not for the sake of the mitzvah itself. Shemitoich Shalei Lishma Ba Lishma. Because when you do the mitzvah Shalei Lishma, you will eventually come to fulfill it Lishma. Okay. So now there's a Arichas Digataisis about this, that in other places in Shas you do find that it says that if a person is Isaac and Torah Shalei Lishma, Noyach Lo Shalei Nivra. Would have been better that he shouldn't have been born. So on other places, the Gemara does say that it's a negative thing to learn Shalei Lishma. It's a famous Taisvis. There's Taisvis here and Taisvis in other places in Shas. Here, Taisvis answers that the difference is if a person learns, but he has a selfish motive, that's what our Gemara is saying, that you should continue learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. When it says Noyach L'Shalei Nivra, that's a person that learns and doesn't fulfill the Torah that he learns. He learns al Manas Shalei Lases. He's not Mekayim Torah mitzvahs b'chlal. On that it says Noyach L'Shalei Nivra. There's other answers as well, but that's the answer that Taisa says here. It's the famous pshat that the Rebbe brings in the Taich of Mitoich Shalei Lishma Ba Lishma, that even now, not only in the future will he come, but even now, b'shas he's being Mekayim the Torah Shalei Lishma, but the Toich of the Yid, and the real reason why he's doing it is because his neshama wants to learn the Torah. The Toich even now is really Lishma. Amar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, Rav Nachman by Yitzchak said, the mitamra, the one that, those things that are concealed, that it's in the heart of a person and nobody else knows, so that's hidden. Or the megalia, but those that are exposed, those things that are revealed for everyone to know. But Beidin Rabbah, in the great court, in the heavenly court, Lispara, they will be they'll pay back or be punished of those Mahani the Chofu Gundi, of those that wrap themselves in a cloak, those that wrap themselves in a talis and appear to be tzaddikim and really are not. Amale Yanei Malke Lidibisi. Yanei Malke said to his wife, Al Tisyari Mina Perushim. Don't be afraid of those people that are Prushim, that are tzaddikim, they separate from the world and they're tzaddikim, they do Torah mitzvahs. Don't be afraid of them, because if they are, over here he's talking about the real Prushim, those that are really sincere. There's no reason to be afraid of them. And also, don't be afraid of those that are not Prushim, that are not fulfilling Torah mitzvahs properly. They were Yanai's friends. Yanai was not a tzaddik, and therefore he was friendly with them. So they are my friends, don't be afraid of them. Ella, who should you be afraid of? Minat tzvuin. Those people that are tzvuin, they appear in one way. How do they translate their tzvuin? Pretenders, very good. The people that pretend, they appear in one way, and really, that's not who they are. Shadaimin leprushin. They appear to be like those that are Prushin. Shemaseyen kemaisa zimri. Their actions are like zimri. Umavakshin schar kepinchis. But they're asking reward for what they're doing, like Pinchas. In other words, really they're behaving like Zimri, which was Mizana, and there was a big Avedis. But nevertheless, they're asking for schar like Pinchas, which killed Zimri. It was a Ba Mesiris Nefesh. The Rebbe points out that the Gemara brings dafka this example because both Zimri and Pinchas also, if you looked at Zimri outwardly, Chazal described that Zimri had reasons for what he did and he thought it was all positive. But really, B'pnimius, it was all negative. And the same thing in the opposite at Pinchas. You look at Pinchas, outwardly it looked like he was a achzer, he went and killed. But really, B'pnimius, it was all positive. So it's the same thing also when you look at a person, you look at the actions externally, lavdafka, you know what's really going on. You have to know the motive of what the person is doing. There's a very interesting sikha about Riches in Chelik Lamed Hey, Parshas Toilus, the third sikha that Rebbe brings there, a maimer from the Alter Rebbe about this Inyan, about the Tzvuin. From the Maimori Admar Zakna Ktsarim. And the Alter Rebbe over there says that the whole Golus, the Arichas of the Golus, is the Golus Edom, which is related to the Tzvuin. Because Esav himself also, when he dealt with his father Yitzchak, also was in this kind of a way. He would try to show his father how he was a tzaddik, and he was doing kibbud of aim, and he was giving meiser, and really he was a murderer. So this tzvius is the worst part of the Golus, which is very difficult to overcome, and that's the main reason for the Arichas of the Golus. That's Arichas that Rebbe explains it over there in the Sikha in Chelik Lamed Hey. Sagt der Heilige Mishnah, Rab Shimon Oimer. Rab Shimon says, Ein zechos teile b'mayim amorim. A merit that a woman has will not suspend the effect of the bitter waters that she drinks. So he's arguing with what it said in the previous Mishnah, that if she has its chus, then the water will not have its effect. And Rabbi Shimon adds and explains, because v'immat ha'omer, or she'immat ha'omer is chus teile b'mayim amorim, that this chus holds up. This water is of having its effect. So mada ata, so you're going to dilute, or there's a greatest here, matcha, you're pushing off, as hamayim ifnei kol hanashim ha'sheises, in front of all other women that drink this water, and they're all going to say that, look, the water doesn't have its effect. And you're also going to cause a bad name for those women that drank the waters, and they came out pure. The water didn't have an effect on them, because now they can say, Tumei is saying, really they did do an Aveda, they were Tumei, they had a schus, and therefore the water did not affect them. So we can't say that this schus will have an effect over here to suspend this water, the effect of the water, because then the whole point of what the water is here for, to determine who was tummy and who's not, is sort of neutralized. Rabbi says, that the schus will suspend the effect of the waters. She will not give birth. She does not have, her body doesn't improve, the water does not have any positive effect on her if she did an Aveda. But even though she has a zechus, but the zechus will not cause the water to not be positive. Ella, but on the other hand, though, yeah, the effect of the water that she dies immediately is suspended, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any effect at all right away. Ella, rather, what happens is that right away, misnavne vayleches, she slowly deteriorates, and l'saif he meisa baisa misa, and then eventually she will pass away with this bisa. So Rabbi sort of says it does suspend it to some extent, but eventually she will pass away. If the mincha of this woman became tamei, actually kitcha bekeli, before it was yet sanctified in the keli, in the klisharis, as we learned before in the Mishnahs, originally it was brought in a basket, not in a klisharis. It's like all other menachais that becomes tamei before it's kedushas aguf in the klisharis v'tipada. You just redeem it, and it's not hektish anymore. Once it was sanctified in the klisharis, and then afterwards it became tamei, then it has the halacha of all other menachas v'tisareif, and it has to be burnt, and it cannot go out to chulin anymore.